Hey there, everyone. I'm meteorologist Cassie Knoll, and this is your 10 Weather Impact Recap for the week. Let's start with a look at some of the top weather stories, beginning with a volcanado in Hawaii. Check this out, it's right there. During the latest eruption at Kilauea on Tuesday, an ash devil formed near the lava fountain. Hot temperatures caused the air to rise and rotate rapidly, picking up ash and volcanic glass known as Pele's hair. This was episode 32 of an eruption that started back in December. Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. And in Maine, Passy Pete is back. The lobster made his annual Labor Day appearance to predict whether we'll see 6 more weeks of summer or an early winter. Spectators traveled from near and far to see the clairvoyant crustacean emerge from the water. For the 11th time, Pete made his annual weather prediction, choosing one of 2 scrolls and letting everyone know that this year we'll have 6 more weeks of winter. After that, Passy Pete was released back into the bay. And speaking of weather folklore, let's talk about fogs in August. The saying goes, for every fog in August, there will be snow in winter. At the McGee-Tyson Airport, our official climate data site, there were 10 days with fog reported last month, and one of those was thick fog. By the laws of weather folklore, that would indicate that we'll have 10 days with snow this winter, and one of them will be heavy. We'll have more about our winter weather outlook when we get closer to winter. Last Friday, August 29th, marked 20 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall along the Gulf Coast, still the most destructive storm in U.S. history. 2 decades later, ocean temperatures are much warmer than they were in the early 2000s, increasing the potential for tropical systems to rapidly intensify. Meteorologist Chase Kane covered Hurricane Katrina as it made landfall in 2005 and takes a look back at how the environment has changed since then.
In just this small area of about 5 or 6 city blocks, there are right now about 19 or 20 deaths in just that small area.
That's me as a young reporter covering the most destructive hurricane in U.S. history. Katrina caused more than $200 billion in damage and killed nearly 1,400 people. And in the 2 decades since, our oceans have gotten even hotter as a result of burning oil and gas. This illustration shows how fast ocean temperatures are rising, nearly a full degree hotter since 2005, which is a big deal because heat is what fuels hurricanes.
And unfortunately, yes, there is more of that jet fuel that these systems, tropical cyclones, can tap into and lead to rapid intensification.
When a storm's winds increase 35 miles an hour in less than 24 hours, that's rapid intensification. And that's happening more often. But so is an even newer term, extreme rapid intensification.
But look at what Milton did, 92-mile-an-hour increase, and that is one of the hallmark signatures of what climate change is doing to hurricanes, Hallie.
Well, Climate Central analysis found that since Hurricane Katrina, extreme rapid intensification is happening nearly 50% more often.
And if that intensification occurs near land, it basically cuts off any lead time and leads to a community being, in many cases, unprepared.
And that's why investments in hurricane research are so important, helping forecasters at the National Hurricane Center keep pace with how an overheating planet makes storms more intense and wetter, too.
Every hurricane contains more moisture than it would have without climate change, and that means the rainfall associated is in every case stronger than it would have been. And so the flood damage from hurricanes is larger because of climate change.
Numerous studies show that link. Researchers found Hurricane Helene dumped 10% more rain because of climate change, 18% more rain from Hurricane Ian, and up to 36% more rain during Hurricane Harvey, likely flooding twice as many homes because of climate change. And looking back to Katrina, Climate Central found the water which fueled the storm was, even at the time, 5 times more likely to be that hot because of climate change. Fast forward to today, and the Gulf is even hotter.
Folks need to realize that the 21st century climate and the type of weather extremes that we're seeing in the 21st century climate are nothing like we've lived through.
Last week, nearly 200 current and former FEMA workers signed and sent a letter to Congress, warning lawmakers about recent changes. The letter, titled Katrina Declaration, warned about the possibility of failures similar to those seen in 2005 during Hurricane Katrina's aftermath. The letter, FEMA employees accused Trump administration of weakening the agency's response capabilities and appointing unqualified leadership. The letter also argues reforms since Katrina are now being unraveled. Both CNN and the Associated Press report some of those workers received a notice saying they've been placed on leave indefinitely. In June, the president announced plans to phase out the federal agency after hurricane season. Last week also marked 11 months since Hurricane Helene brought devastation to parts of the southeast, and North Carolina officials say they are finally seeing a road to recovery. NCDOT crews have finished a temporary road to Chimney Rock, one of the hardest hit areas during the storm. And thanks to $250 million project, NCDOT plans to have a permanent solution in the community in the next 2 to 3 years. Downstream from Chimney Rock along the Broad River in North Carolina, crews continue demolition of a historic bridge. The Flowering Bridge in Lake Lure showed off more than 2,000 species of plants and was known as the gateway to somewhere beautiful. We're told that pedestrian bridge held back nearly a 30-foot wall of debris that came downstream from Chimney Rock and protected some of the homes near Lake Lure. But Hurricane Helene's punishing waters washed away most of the structure, and the rest has to be demolished. Locals are fundraising to plant new gardens near where the Flowering Bridge once stood. The historic rainfall from Helene also wiped out parts of Interstate 40 near the Tennessee and North Carolina state line. Transportation leaders now say part of the interstate will be closed for up to 3 years for continued improvements. Lauren Lovett shares the latest from officials.
Almost a year after Hurricane Helene, and this work here is still only temporary, though permanent construction is supposed to start soon. NCDOT says they hope to have this section of I-40 completely reopened in just a few years. Work is constant as crews fix what Helene damaged. NCDOT is finalizing a design that will work to prevent damage similar to what the interstate saw in September.
I would say it's very similar to dam construction. With that roller compacted concrete, that's what it will look like driving by to motorists. It would look like a dam.
Up to 30 feet thick, and all of these walls will be tied in to bedrock.
Leaders say it's an estimated $1.36 billion to repair the about 5-mile stretch from the Tennessee state line. Only part of that section had walls before the flood.
Most of the project did not have a wall. It was just an existing embankment.
Our goal here is to have a structure that is will be able to take the load and the forces that were put on this material before. We feel like we're taking all the steps that we can come up with to make sure that it does not happen again.
Crews are collecting loose materials and gathering other material from a nearby site across the river. They're using a causeway for now, but are also constructing 2 acro bridges.
The role of the bridges is to transfer material from our borrow site across the river to our work zone, to build back the walls to hold up the interstate.
Back here in Tennessee, Interstate 26 in Irwin is fully operational after nearly a year of repairs. TDOT crews announced that both sides of the bridge are back open with 2 lanes moving in each direction. Reporter Emily Crabtree spoke to locals about how the construction has impacted their daily lives.
When Hurricane Helene hit Irwin, Tennessee last September, this river behind me, the Nolichucky, actually came up over this bridge and damaged the road on it. Now, nearly a year later, things on the road are almost fully operational.
Kenneth Percival says he was driving on the I-26 bridge when the river started overflowing.
I mean, it's hard to believe, but the water here ended up coming up over the bridge, and I was driving to work that morning as the water was starting to come over the guardrails. There was a couple of inches of water on the bridge, and then 30, 40 minutes later, the interstate was closed down.
Percival and his family live right off the interstate, so when traffic was diverted to surface streets, things got a little noisy.
With industry and shift changes, 4 o'clock in the morning, 11 p.m. at night, 10 p.m. It was, we'll just say, exhausting.
And while he's glad the streets are quieter, he's more excited about what this means for Irwin's rebuilding progress.
The app trail drops right here in town, so you have those southbound hikers that come through. So there's a lot of traffic that incurs in this area this time of year, so it is a great time for it to open back up.
But even though the town is heading in the right direction, they aren't completely out of the woods yet, and help is still needed.
Even if it's just raking, stuff like that, there's still lots of that kind of stuff to be done, and just enjoy the beauty of the area, because it's still there, and there's a reason they call this Valley Beautiful.
As Kenneth mentioned, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in Unicoi County, but he says that without volunteer groups and the people of Irwin, they wouldn't be nearly as close to that goal as where they are now. Reporting in Irwin, I'm Emily Crabtree.
September is the climatological peak of hurricane season, but just like last year, we're actually seeing a lull in activity in the Atlantic Basin during what would typically be one of the busiest times of year. However, as last year showed, we shouldn't let our guard down. Large-scale patterns look to become more favorable for tropical development as we get into the middle of the month. The Atlantic hurricane season continues through November 30th. September also marks the beginning of meteorological fall. In the world of weather, we break down the seasons by calendar months and average temperatures. September, October, and November make up the fall season. Over the next 3 months, average highs will go from the mid-80s down to the mid-50s. And by the averages, fall is also our driest season of the year, which is why rain is an especially good thing right now to help reduce our wildfire risk, something we will be talking more about in the coming weeks. We'll also have more updates about the fall foliage as those leaves begin to change. And now let's get a check of your 7-day forecast. Moving into the weekend, well, we do have some rain chances along the way, including on Saturday. That's the first home game for the Vols. They'll be taking on ETSU with kickoff at 3:30 p.m. And yes, we might have some showers or rumbles of thunder around that time. We'll be keeping our eyes on that forecast for you. Meanwhile, throughout the whole time frame, temperatures generally remain around or slightly below average for this time of year. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can always get the latest in the forecast in the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.